talked about a variety of different eye conditions and procedures on OCuTALK. So this week we're going to talk to Dr. Maria Sampalis about the business side of eye care. Dr. Sampalis?
I want to talk to you.
Not now, later.
No, now.
All right, so today our guest will be Dr. Maria Sampalis with Sampalis Eyecare. So Dr. Sampalis, thank you for being with us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It is a pleasure. So could we start by getting a little bit of background about you, your specialty, how you got started in the industry?
Yeah, I graduated from New England College of Optometry in about 2007, and it's been quite a journey since 2007. I've done some academia. I did a lot of corporate optometry practice. I've recently purchased a private practice as well. I've done some consulting. I've tried working in the health center. I've done a lot of different things, and found that for me, it was a good balance to have one corporate practice and one private practice for me. Very pro doctor having their own practice. I really enjoy being self-employed.
So let's talk a little bit about corporate optometry. So you're the founder of Corporate Optometry. Can you tell me a little bit about what corporate optometry is and what you're doing with that program?
Yeah, so corporate optometry started about 5 years ago. I was leasing space in the retail setting at that point. I started it on Facebook, and it's grown to about 30,000 members worldwide. It has social media following on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. Combined social media followers, about 60,000 in the eye care industry, which is one of the largest in the industry. And then developed, two websites from it, a practice management website, corporateoptometry.com, which focuses on the doctors in that setting, but also on how to grow a practice within the medical model. And then also how to grow a practice if they want to start their own practice as well. And Corporate Optometry Careers, a job website, which has partnered with Pentavision and has been one of the largest in that setting as well. And recently in the last year, CODA, an alliance that's grown about 700 members to provide doctors education, discounts, how to start a sublease. So I've been pretty busy the last 5 years.
So basically what you're doing with corporate optometry is you're trying to help optometrists to start their own private practice. Is that the goal there?
So the goal was to help doctors in the corporate setting, find what is best for them. Each setting, each company has a different unique factor. So one might not work for one OD, but might work for another. It was to help doctors grow within this setting because it is a promising setting for a lot of ODs coming out of school with student loans. And for me, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't start off with that sublease, 5-6 years ago. So it's a platform to help ODs within the setting, how to negotiate contracts, how to get started with a sublease if they decide that's not for them, but also how to give them an exit strategy for them. So it depends on what the doctor wants and what they're looking for. And some doctors don't want sublease. And they're happy with their employed position. So I've helped them negotiate their contracts and help with salaries and help them grow within their career and give them other options because each company has different unique propositions.
So how are you working with these optometrists when they get started? So you talked about your digital presence and how people can come to you in the first place, but how does the process work after that when you're working with optometrists through corporate optometry?
Sure. So sometimes doctors will private message me. Many times they have to be members of CODA, the alliance. They get free 1-hour consulting once they're a member. But we'll review contracts for them and let them know, restricted covenants, what's normal, what a salary should be in a certain area, what they should look out in a contract with non-disclosures and things like that. And I'll put articles together through my websites and my blogs, and I'll post it into the group on what doctors should look for because there's not any information out there in the industry. And I'm hoping that, this platform has helped ODs, increase their net profit, but also, help them make a right career decision for them and what company is right for them.
So you may have mentioned this a second ago. So how long have you been doing this with corporate optometry?
5 years.
5 years. And during that time, I imagine you've worked with lots of different optometrists. So do you find that do you find that generally you're talking about the same things, or are there vast differences between these?
Feel it depends on the corporation and what is in the contract, but usually it's the same thing. It's how to start a practice within the setting, credentialing, how to bill, what EMRs are important, what to watch out in a contract, what's kind of normal standard in a contract, if they should, work a certain amount of hours, kind of help them, coach them on, the volume of the optical and what their hours should be, how to negotiate it, what to look out for. It's been pretty common. And then now with COVID, it's been a lot of COVID questions and things like that. But I'll also post in the group because, I don't know everything, and it's good to get a different opinion from different doctors. So I'll post for them in the group anonymously as well, to see if, their salary or what is in their sublease agreement is accurate.
Absolutely. So you also have a private practice as well, which is what gives you a little bit of clout to have these conversations, I imagine. So what's it like doing both these things together, and how do you balance the two?
Yeah, so I was originally with a Sears Optical, and Sears Optical closed. And so I had to open a practice, and I opened a practice within 2 weeks of them giving me notice. I was actually in Greece, and I opened a practice from Greece. It's crazy, the story, but I was able to do so, and I able to provide that to doctors as well, for doctors that might have been terminated, or the stores closing, especially now with COVID. We're having a lot of store closures. So I've been able to help doctors get started if there are any other options to move to a different sublease. I did not have that option. I had an option of, being employed from somebody else, and that's not what I wanted. So I opened a practice, and patients followed. I think there's a big misconception in the industry that patients won't follow. Patients do follow their doctor. You provide good quality care within this setting, practice the highest level of my license in Rhode Island, and patients followed. And recently, with COVID, there's been some changes. So doctor retired. I was able to purchase his practice. And because I was in the corporate setting making more revenue, because less overhead, I was able to buy a practice.
So one of the things you mentioned a moment ago was about questions that you've gotten from COVID, and that how COVID has changed your practice. So could you expand on that a little bit and talk about the questions that you've been getting about COVID and how you've been dealing with COVID yourself?
Yeah, so Rhode Island's one of the lowest in the states for COVID. So we've been lucky in that aspect, but we were shut down for 2 months. When we opened back up, we had an influx of patients, and it was trying to develop protocols for the office for cleaning, social distancing, curbside pickup, things like that. And a lot of the corporate practices provided a lot of PPE resources to the doctors and protocols as well. Each company was a little different in what they did. And some companies were great, and they paid their employee doctors to stay home during the lockdown. So a lot of them stepped up and did a lot of great things. But a lot of doctors will ask questions about, cleaning procedures, employment options with some of them were laid off during this time, if they could collect or if they could come back, if they had other issues, underlying conditions, things like that. So a lot of those questions would come through the group. A lot of doctors would post themselves, or they would ask me to post for them so they could remain anonymous.
So let's talk a little bit about your private practice and talk about what an average day looks like in there. So what are your main things that you're treating in there in your practice?
Yeah, in my practice, there's a lot of diabetic patients, a lot of dry eye now with COVID, a lot of digital eye strain. A lot of the other doctor that was there before didn't really address dry eye, and it is a great way to build a practice. A great way to start the medical model for doctors that want to get started, because it's not a big investment, but their revenue is tremendous, the potential. I think there was an article that I wrote with Cooper Vision that was some data from Review of Optometry Business Magazine, that if an average practice is seeing 3,000 patients a year, and then 25% of dry eye, the math comes out to about $180,000 a year in revenue from dry eye. And that's just incorporating visits and plugs. Now imagine patients doing other things like anterior photos and pads and other dry eye things that you can sell in your practice. There's tremendous revenue in that. So patients have been accepted for it because we'll ask for the chief complaint and what they come in for, and I'll show them pictures of what we're finding. And that has been a great way to build a practice and build rapport with the patients because I'm the new doctor. Having some patients now with less glaucoma suspects. I have retinal photography. I have GDX, which I want to upgrade to an OCT in the near future. We do a lot of visual fields and really being strategic on how we're booking those follow-up appointments, because that's necessarily not taking a lot of my time. I can have the tech do that and generate revenue and be efficient in the office as well. So, the medical model has been a great way to kind of offset, low reimbursements or vision plans.
Dr. Sampalis, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.